Hi, it's Stacy with Sew Steady, and we are here with the amazing Cathey Sewing Center, bringing you ruler work for beginners with one of our amazing educators, Lorena Corzatt. Lorena is coming to you from the amazing state of Oregon. So we're on the West Coast. We were just talking about how awful our weather's been, guys. I don't know if you would agree with this, but we've had rain every weekend for like the last month, I think. It's kind of sunny in the weekdays, but like never gets above 75, and then it rains the whole time. So any weekend we have has been rainy, but that's okay. We won't complain. I know that if you're in Arizona, you're probably in the mid 90s and you wouldn't mind a little rain. Uh, so Lorena, you are going to take us through the ruler work for beginners today.
Yes, yes.
Just as a little bit of a kind of telling everyone how the event's going to run. I'm going to be in the background checking for questions, relaying those over to Lorena. So make sure to ask away in the chat feature. We're going to have a few giveaways today, so stay tuned for that. And we've got some amazing exclusive offers for discounts during the event that you can take advantage of. And we're going to post those links into the chat. So there'll be some extra class supplies and that sort of thing that Lorena is going to share today to be able to take advantage of. She's even got an amazing pattern and project by one of our educators that's located in the UK that she's going to be showing you today. And that is using the tools that are in our basic beginner set. So I'm excited for all of that. We might even have one of those patterns as a giveaway today. So Lorena, tell us all about what we're going to be learning.
Great. So ruler work, it's a way to finish your quilts at home. So you can do this on your domestic machine. The whole idea is, for so long we've done all this piecing and all this great work, and you picked the pattern and you picked the fabrics and you did all this fabulous stuff, and then you sent it off to your long armor. And she is a wonderful person, or he is a wonderful person. But at the same time, when they finish your quilt, they finished your quilt. And so here's a way to begin to get those quilt tops done, turn them into quilts, and you can say, I did this whole thing. You can do this. You absolutely can do this. So for those of you who have tried free motion quilting and it's like, I don't know what to do, ruler work is one of the things that's going to give you some structure and some direction. And you can make it as structured as you want, or you can go out and play with these rulers. And that's where the fun really, really starts. So I'm going to give you some of the basics for how to do this today. It is free motion quilting. So you are in charge of stitch length and all of that good stuff. And I will talk about that. So you're going to be learning some new skills. One of my big rules is there are no seam rippers allowed. You're going to play. Don't try to get perfect the first time out, because you're learning a new skill. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some latitude to play, and let's have fun with this. You can do this, and I'm here to help you. If you have questions today, please, please, please make sure you ask those questions. You'll be able to watch this video. I think it's for 4 weeks afterwards, and go back and replay it. And I didn't get that part. Oh, let me see that again. So you can do that. So take advantage of that as well. And with that, I'm going to turn the camera over to the machine and get started and show you what some of these basics are today. So hang on. We're going to have a great time. Stacy, I'm going to switch that camera over.
Sounds great.
And here we go. There we go. Okay. There it is. There it is. So I have a whole bunch of things spread out here, things that we're going to talk about today, and some basics about how to get your machine set up to do ruler work. The first thing that you're going to want to have is a nice flat workspace. That's going to be really important. And my flat workspace, slide this off, and the glare will get a little bit bad for a minute here. I have a So Steady table, okay? This is cut specifically for my machine. It's available for any machine out there. It will be cut specifically for your machine, so it will fit exactly around the bed of your machine. It has adjustable legs. Let's see, there's one back here that you can, well, where is it? Where we go? I've got them. There it is. There's one right back there that you can see on the camera. So these are adjustable legs that allow you to get everything flat and smooth. And my recommendation is to go with the largest table that you can fit in your workspace. So I have the Wish table, and my Wish table, I'll move the camera a little bit here. My Wish table has a drawer over here. Yes, it's where my seam rippers live, but it's also where my spare bobbins live, my marking tools. If I'm really desperate, I keep M&Ms in it, and I can see everything that's going on over here. It also has a circles tool, which is a wonderful tool. I'm not going to talk about it today, but it is a wonderful tool. And then with my table, I also have all of this extra storage space underneath here. So I can use, I've got, it increases my storage space, and I can keep things handy underneath here as well. So you're going to want a flat workspace that allows you to support your work and to support your rulers, okay? The next thing that you will want is something to make, so this table is acrylic. And as such, it's a nice smooth surface, but we can make it even smoother. The thing that is going to make this work for you, to make your life easier, is to have your fabric slide as easily as possible on your work surface, okay? It will slide nicely, but there is still this seam between the bed of your machine and your table, and that's a place for things to get a little bit hung up. So this is the way we're going to fix that. We are going to use a ruler work glider, okay? This glider is reusable many, many times, and I will show you how this works. So it's going to come like this. It's going to come all rolled up, and I keep mine stored in the tube because it keeps it safe and happy and easy to use. It's a cling back, okay? So just like a window cling. And there's a piece of plastic that keeps it from sticking to itself. And I keep that so that I can put this back into the tube when I'm done with it. And this cling is just going to slide on just like this. And it's going to stick to my table and the bed of my machine. And now this polyester mat allows me to move my fabric so easily on here. So one finger, okay? No sticking, one finger. So your ruler work glider is really an essential component of making this an easy to do thing for you because it allows that fabric to move so easily. The other thing the ruler work glider does, I have my feed dogs down. You will want to set your machine with the feed dogs down. There are a few machines out there that don't allow you to do that. The ruler work glider will cover those feed dogs up so that they're not going to interfere with what's going on up here, okay? Because you're going to be moving your fabric in all different directions. So you will want your feed dogs down. I have on a single hole stitch plate. That's not necessary. It works well because the foot that I use for my machine allows my needle to be centered. If you need to adjust your needle position, you want the wider stitch plate on there, but a single hole works well and gives you a little bit more stability. Either way, whichever one works best for you, go ahead and use that. Stacy, are we doing any prizes today? I don't remember. We'll get
We are, but we'll start those in like 20 minutes. So you can keep going.
All righty. We forgot to clarify that. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a brand new needle. My needle is going to be a 9014 top stitch needle. Here, I have all of these back up here. Let me just slide this back up, and that gets rid of some of that glare for a minute too. I have a 9014 top stitch needle. Okay, the reason I like a top stitch and this size, the 9014 is a little bit bigger than what you typically use for piecing. You're usually going to use a 75 or an 80. So the 9014 is a little bit stouter needle, and the top stitch has a very large eye, and that allows that thread to move easily through that needle and not get hung up on anything. So a new 9014 top stitch needle, new is important because you want to make sure that it's straight and clean and doesn't have any burrs, and a new needle really helps your stitch quality. If you've ever had problems with stitch quality, a new needle is often the thing that will help you a lot, okay? The next thing that we need is a presser foot. A ruler work presser foot is a little bit different than any other free motion foot that you would use. So a typical free motion foot is going to look like this guy. It's going to be often a little disc. It may be a plastic foot. It may have some other variations on it. But the basic thing is it's this little foot. It doesn't make any contact with the presser feet or with the feed dogs because it's free motion, okay? This foot will not work for ruler work. This is a ruler work foot. This is the Sew Steady ruler work foot. And you will notice the first thing about it is it has this high shoulder on it. That high shoulder is incredibly important because that's what's going to keep your rulers from riding up over the top of your foot and hitting the needle, breaking a needle, putting a ding in your ruler, and just making you generally unhappy. So you will need a ruler foot. The ruler foot is available through Sew Steady, and it comes in different shank heights. That shank height is specific to your machine. Many machines are using a low shank foot. If you have questions about this, you can ask the folks at Cathey's. You can ask, there's a guide at Sew Steady that tells you if this is your machine, this is the foot you need. There are 4 different configurations available. Most machines take one of either a low shank or a high shank. There are a few other variations, but mostly those 2 are going to cover it. So this is what your foot will look like when it comes. There are some machines, mine is one of them. Janome also has a ruler work specific foot that is made for their machine. Excuse me. If you have that available to you, that's fabulous. Go ahead and use that. If you don't, there is a ruler work foot that will fit your machine, and this is how it's going to work. This is going to go on to the shank of your machine. Oftentimes this will be already affixed to your machine, and you just put on with the little screw right here. So I can take mine off and put that little screw right in there, use an actual screwdriver rather than my fingernail. But I want to make this just, at this point, I just want to have it snug. I don't want it tight. And then I can put that foot on my machine, and we will adjust the height of this foot as we get going, okay? So a couple of things to notice about a ruler work foot. First, it has this high shank right here. Let me see if I can get that camera a little bit lower so you can see that better. Let's see if that works better. So it has that high shoulder on it. It has a little dip in it right here so that you can see where center is, okay? I can see that my needle with the Sew Steady foot is not centered. So I would need to move my foot or my needle to the right, just a hair, in order to be able to center that. You may or may not need to do that, okay? If you have a machine-specific foot for your brand of machine, you probably won't need to make any adjustments to the needle. So the other thing that's really important about a ruler foot is this is exactly 1/2 inch across here. So it's a 1/2 inch diameter circle. It's exactly 1/2 inch all the way around. That's really important because that means that your needle will be exactly 1/4 inch from any point on your foot. And that doesn't seem like a big deal right now, but we're gonna play with that a lot. That's an important consideration for what's going on here. So that's how you're going to set up your machine. You've got your feed dogs down and covered. You've got a nice flat workspace, a ruler work glider so that you can move your fabric easily, because the more you can make this easier on your body, the happier you'll be. A new 9014 top stitch needle. The next thing we have is thread. What kind of thread? Well, you can use the thread that's going to make you happy. That's the ultimate rule. When you first start, I recommend starting with a nice 40 weight cotton, just because it's very forgiving. It's easy to work with. There are tons of options available. Use a high quality cotton, and it will help you. It takes one of the variables out of learning how to do this. When you get a little more comfortable with it, you can certainly go to some of the other threads. There are a ton of threads out there that are available. All of them are great fun to play with. You get whatever look you want. And the other thing to remember is that you don't have to use the same thread on the front and the back. Often the back of your quilt is going to look entirely different from the front. What I'm going to be using today is a 40 weight cotton thread. It's specifically for quilting, and I'm in love with it. I like it because it gives me a nice bold look. It's easy for you to see on camera, and it's reliable. I know that I can count on it to do the things that I want it to do. So are there any questions yet at this point?
No questions yet. We do have we will definitely look at being able to do a giveaway here in a little bit. Did you want to start demonstrating, and then we might have some extra special information to share with you here in a moment as well. So
okay,
all right. Thank you.
I'm going to put on the ruler foot that is specific for my machine. It has exactly the same characteristics as the So Steady foot that I just showed you. So it has this high shoulder on it. It's got the little divot there that I can see I'm centered. And that just helps with visibility and working with things. My adjustment is here for height. And I will show you why we would want to do that in just a second here. So presser foot height is probably the thing that gives people the most bugaboo when they're first starting out. And the reason for that is the symptoms of having your presser foot height not quite right are a little funny, maybe not what you would expect. But let me show you how you're going to start to zoom in on that. So I have cotton, and cotton right here. A thin bat. I think this is Warm and Natural. 2 pieces of cotton. I would typically spray baste these together for a small project. And that's the other thing. Don't let your first project be a queen-sized quilt. It's going to be really hard to get that down. Practice on some small things. Practice on something the size of a fat quarter. Placemats are great. Table runners, great places to start practicing, because you don't have to huck all that fabric around, and you'll develop some good habits that then you can use when you start going to some of those bigger projects. So I'm going to put my presser foot down. I also want my needle in the, when I stop sewing, so I don't have any thread in here right now. When I stop sewing, I want my needle to be in the down position. So see where I've ended up here, and that keeps my fabric stable. It keeps it from going anywhere that I didn't want it to go. When I look at the height of my presser foot right now, I want it to be able to, so I have my needle down, but let's come up here. I want to be able to just barely move this fabric. I want it to glide easily. I don't want any bubbles to form in front of my fabric, but I don't want it to be too high. So I'm going to show you what too high looks like. I'm adjusting this with the adjustment on mine. You may make your adjustment by loosening this screw and raising or lowering the height of the presser foot here. Okay. So I have just made this very, very high. I can put, this is a spacing gauge, and we'll talk about this later. I can put my entire spacing gauge under, pardon my military base. I can put my entire spacing gauge underneath there. So I know that's too high. What my presser foot is doing is, as my needle goes down into the fabric, you can see how it goes down. And when it comes back up, can you see how that bounces back up against the presser foot? That is going to cause you to break threads, okay? It will break your top thread. You'll get inconsistent stitches, and it will make you crazy. So I've exaggerated this a lot. Adjusting the height of your presser foot can be as much as eyelashes to get that in the right place. So if you find that you are breaking threads, you will want to lower your presser foot just a hair. It's not much, okay? Now, if my presser foot is too low, I will get something that looks like this. Let me adjust this a little bit more here. Oh, come on. Yeah, I can go down. Okay. So what will happen now is, as I move my fabric, I will get bubbling against my fabric. And I don't want it to bubble up like that, because that means that there's too much pressure between my presser foot and the bed of my machine. Okay. That's going to be awkward because it will make it hard to move your fabric. And you have to be able to move your fabric easily for this to work well for you. Okay. So presser foot height, really important, and just a matter of degrees. It's a tiny bit. It's not a lot of change in order to get that to be the right height. Okay, so I'm going to come back up. I'm going to go ahead now and thread my needle, because I wanted to show you that stuff without having a bunch of crazy stuff going on. The next thing that probably gives people the most trouble is, well, my stitch length is all over the place. Well, yes, your stitch length is all over the place because you're just learning, and that's okay. If you have a speed control on your machine that allows you to set kind of a governor, you will want to set that at about 30 miles an hour. That will allow you to press the foot pedal all the way down and keep a consistent speed for your needle. Okay. So, okay, we'll go ahead and unthread this again. So what that's going to look like, if I have my speed control all the way down, it will look like this. So I'm going to press my foot control all the way down. That's pretty slow. Okay. If I have it all the way up, so I don't have a governor on there at all, I can go 110 miles an hour now. Ah, that's terrifying. Okay. I don't want to go that fast because I can't keep up with my hands. So I'm going to set it at about 35 miles an hour. Okay. That might be a little quick, but as you go, you'll find a sweet spot for where you like to have that speed control. If you don't have a speed control on your machine, there is a device that's available through Sew Steady that attaches to the foot pedal that allows you to set that speed. And if you feel like you need that, you go right ahead and do that. It often makes it much easier for beginners. Okay. So I want to check just to make sure that I have things going in the right direction, and I have the kind of look that I want. So when I first start stitching, here's how I'm going to start. And this is something that we borrowed from those long armors. If you have a great big quilt, snorkeling underneath there for your bobbin thread is kind of a pain. So you don't want to have to do that. So we borrowed this from the long armors as a way to have both the front and the back of our quilt look equally good, because you don't want all those little bobbin gobbers on the back. So I've threaded my needle, but I don't have my thread through my presser foot yet. That's all right. I'm going to talk you through this, and I'll talk you through it a few times as we get going. And then you can go back and rewatch this. You'll have this little mantra in your head for how to begin and how to end your stitching. I'm going to hold on to my needle or my thread, lower my presser foot. I'm going to go needle down, needle up. Okay, that's all I've done, holding on to that thread. I'm going to raise my presser foot again, and there is my needle thread. As I pull this toward me, I can go pop, and there's my bobbin thread. It just popped up right there. So I can take whatever your tool of choice is. That allowed me to pull my needle thread through the foot, so it's where it belongs now. And I can pull my bobbin threads up and pull my bobbin thread to the top. Extra machine fuzz there. So now I have both of my threads coming through the top of the fabric. I can slide my fabric back over, get lined up with that where my bobbin thread is coming out, and do needle down. Now I'm ready to start stitching. Okay, I have both of these threads. I'm going to hold on to those while I begin my first stitches. And this is where I'm going to kind of test my presser foot height. So I'm going to start sewing, and yes, this is without any template. I'm just sewing along here to see, am I getting the look that I want? Okay. You may or may not need to adjust your tension. Your manufacturer is going to have good guidelines on how to do that. So I think that my foot is probably just a hair high. So I'm going to put it down just a little bit more. And let's see, go there. A little bit more. Okay. And that's about what I'm looking for. Okay. So I can move my fabric easily under my presser foot. I've got my speed control set. You don't want it so slow that you're going to fall over. It's like a bicycle. You don't want to fall off just because you don't have any momentum. But you also don't want to go 110 miles an hour when you're learning. Okay. A couple of ways to end your line of stitching. One is to just do a little wiggle right here. So just a couple of stitches almost on top of each other. Now I can raise my needle, raise my presser foot, pull all of this toward me. Now, you can see my bobbin thread right here. It would be easy enough to just duck underneath here and cut it, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to grab my needle thread, come back over here. So I've got this loop around my finger. Needle down, needle up, presser foot up, and pull toward me. So I'm going to pull that bobbin thread up again. Okay, so there's my bobbin thread. This one is a little more confusing, but it's exactly the same thing as what we did when we started. I'm going to go ahead and cut my needle thread right there. And I can pull my bobbin thread up. I don't want to use the cutter because I want these tails. And I can show you why. Oh, goodness. My fingers are not working well this morning. So I can pull that loop of bobbin thread. Let's get this guy out of here. I can pull that loop of bobbin thread. One side is attached to my fabric. The other side is still attached to my bobbin. I can pull that out. So this is the bobbin side. Now that I've got some slack, I can cut the bobbin side. Pull that out. There are my threads. And here are my threads on top of my quilt. Now I just did a little wiggle right here. That is sufficient to tie that off. In a moment, I'll show you, well, I can show you another way to tie these off. And it's purely a matter of preference. I have a friend who does this and she says, nope, I just want to do the little wiggle and be done with it. I didn't do a wiggle at the beginning here. I'm going to take my clover needles. These are top threading needles. These are available through Sew Steady and through your dealer. They can, this may change your life. I don't know how you are about threading needles, but I like the top loading because they don't get stuck on anything. So I've loaded both of those threads into my needle. I'm going to make just an overhand knot and move it so it's about 1/4 of an inch away from my stitching. I'm going to take the needle and go right back in to where that stitch started. There's my knot. It's just sitting right on top of my fabric right now. I can pull it, and I pulled the knot into the fabric. Now I can cut this off, and I've tied off my stitches. So both of these work.
And you buried
them. And
Yay.
buried them. Yeah.
Well, you know, I wanted to go ahead and say we do have a quick question, and then we wanted to have a Donnie Cathey from Cathey Sewing is going to take a moment and say hi to everybody, and then we'll do a giveaway. So let's go ahead and just have Donnie come on real quick. Hi, Donnie.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Good to see all of you.
Hi, Donnie.
Hi, how are you doing, hon?
Good.
Good. You're doing a great job. I've been watching and learning.
Oh, thank you.
Next thing you know, I'll be out there doing it, right?
Okay.
We would love that.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to everybody that is tuned in. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of today's virtual event. We appreciate it very much. Carly would be on here talking as well, but she is in Salt Lake City getting some training through Handy Quilter right now, along with several of our educators. So Excellent. We're holding down the fort here in sunny Tucson, Arizona. And I want to point out to everybody that we do have air-conditioned stores. So if you want to come and hang out in a cool atmosphere, please come and hang out with us. We'd love to see you. And again, thank you guys for everything. It's only 107 here today, so it's about putting on a sweater.
Okay. Well, you come out to Oregon. We've got it in the mid 60s right now and raining. So
okay. Yeah. Well, you could send some of that cool weather and a little of the rain too. We'll take that. Also.
Yeah, we will.
Or you can come to the sunny side of Oregon.
Yes. There's one of those too.
Well, thank you so much for letting us come on and be part of this, Donnie. And we did have one question come through, Lorena, so I was going to go ahead and let them throw that at you, and then we thought we'd give something away. So someone asked, what did you see that caused you to adjust your foot?
So as I was sewing, I could see that my foot, I was still getting a little bit of bounce on my fabric. It's very subtle. It really is a matter of adjusting my eyelashes, and it's a little bit of trial and error, but once you get to know it, you will see it. So it's that fabric bounce that I'm looking for.
Okay, great. And then, so I thought maybe we should do our giveaway. So
Okay.
as for our first giveaway today, I was thinking that amazing glider that you have right
This one
below
right
the
here?
surface. Yep. So that is one of our get ready to do ruler work necessities.
Yes.
So we have a few different gliders. This is our ruler work glider. It's 12 by 20. It has a circular hole, so it covers up the feed dogs. And what it really does for you is it just makes everything super slick and ready to go ahead and have nothing hold up your fabric when you're moving it around that needle area. So that is what we would consider an essential. And we're going to have one lucky winner that signed up for this event win that. In order to win, you did need to sign up for the event, and then we're going to email out the winners here in the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. You might be one of the lucky winners. Now, we do have that exclusive coupon for you to use. On behalf of Cathey's bringing this event to all of you, you get 10% off on the class supply page. So that is something that you can go ahead and take advantage of. We'll post a link to that as well. And then we would go ahead and encourage you, if you were the winner, but you bought one, that you could go ahead, we'll credit you for that, and you can go ahead and use that money for something else. So you don't have to wait to see if you won, is what I'm trying to tell you. All right, so we'll let you take it away. It looks like you're ready to go ahead and show us some ruler work now.
Yeah, let's get started with this.
Okay.
So I did notice in the comments one question about adjusting for your seam height where you have a lot of seams coming together in your piecing. And yes, you may need to make some small adjustments as you go in order to have that work well. I really recommend starting on something that has less piecing, less kind of noise going on, so that you can get the technique down and then figure out, yeah, okay, I've got a lot of seams in this quilt. I may need to raise my presser foot just a little bit in order to clear those. So I have a piece of fabric here. I have marked off a little square, and I'm going to do some more marking. Ruler work is one of those things that you can have really, really accurate results with. One of the things that helps you do that is this tool. It's called a crosshair ruler, crosshair square. This is the 12.5-inch crosshair square. So what it does, I have, I think I marked an 8-inch square on here. And handily enough, on my crosshair ruler, I have markings for 6, 7, 8, 9, out to 12, and 12.5 to the outside edge. So if I line up the 8-inch lines on this block, then I know where I have the center, and I can line up and mark 8 lines very easily and very quickly. I can also mark 16 or 32 lines using this same tool, and I'll show you how that works. I'm using a Choco liner. This is available also from Cathey's and So Steady. A little wrap on marking. I don't care what tool you use to mark. It doesn't matter. But please, please, please make sure that you test it before you mark up the top of your quilt, and make sure that those lines will come out, okay? So whatever you use, whatever is convenient for you, the thing that you love, use that. But please make sure that it will come out of your quilt top when you are all done quilting. Okay, so I'm going to take my Choco liner, and I'm just going to draw these 8 lines in just really fast. I don't have to do any measuring. I don't have to do anything other than line up the edges of the block with my ruler. And there are my 8 lines, as quick as that. I want to know exactly where the center is, and my marking tool doesn't fit into the center hole. There is a center hole. So I'm just going to take the outside of my crosshair square and mark that center spot. So now I know where my center is, okay? In order to mark 16, so you could easily do that with one of your acrylic rulers. Here's where this tool really comes in handy. I can line up again on my center spot, and I have some more reference lines in here that will line up to those previous chalk lines. So I'm going to line up on my chalk lines and my center spot, and I can do 16 lines just this quickly. I could turn it 2 more times and do 32. That's a much harder pull with your acrylic ruler, your basic ruler. So
No, we just had a good question come in. Someone said, is the pressure foot just for Bernina machines?
No, absolutely not. So this is the So Steady foot. Okay, this is available from So Steady, and it will fit any machine. Okay, you will need to know the make and model of your machine, and we will make sure that you get the right presser foot for your machine. Okay, so yes, I have on a Bernina foot. This is the So Steady foot, and it will fit any machine. There are very, very few, some very, very old machines out there that we may not be able to help you with, but that is a very rare occurrence. Okay, did that help, Stacy?
Yeah, I think that cleared it up.
Okay, so I have made these markings, and you're wondering why? Why do I want to mark this? Well, I'm going to use one of the rulers in the 6-piece sampler template set. And let me tell you what these are. This is the first ruler I'm going to use. It is the Circles on Quilts spinning wheel number 36. This is included in the 6-piece sampler template set. So there's that ruler. Also included in that set is this little Spinifex ruler. Okay. A 2-inch circle. A 4-inch arc. Okay, so it's going to look like that. A 6-inch spiral, which does all kinds of fun things. And the 2-for-1 ruler, which is my clamshells. So I have big clamshells and I have little clamshells. So it's a 2-for-1. So it's actually 7 rulers in a 6-piece sampler template set. I'm going to start with this one, which is, I think, one of the easiest rulers to start with because it's closed, and you'll see why here in just a second. The other thing that's going to come in your sampler template set are these very, very special tacks, little thumbtacks. Yes, they are thumbtacks. I'm going to find that center spot from the front, and I'm going to stick my thumbtack in and press it all the way through. Okay, when I come out the backside, there's my thumbtack. It's hard to see on the black, but there's my thumbtack right there. I'm going to take it out, come back to the backside. I made a little tiny hole, and I'm going to have my thumbtack sticking up through my fabric. So there's the business side of my thumbtack right there. It's sticking up through my fabric. On this Circles on Quilts ruler is a little hole right here. That little hole is going to go right over that thumbtack. Very special. Okay. I made 16 lines on here. I'm only going to use 8 of them at this point, and I'll show you how that's going to work. When you get a new ruler, often a great way to get started with this is to not sew. Okay, you've got your ruler lined up. On this ruler are some reference lines. I'm going to line those reference lines up with my chalk lines that I drew. This is where the precision comes in. On this ruler, it has an A and a B, and I'm going to start at A. I'm going to come around, pause up here, come back around, and stop at B. If you do this without sewing, like I just did, so that you can get the feel for how that ruler works, that's going to make your life so much easier because you'll know what to expect. There's a little stop point at A and B, and you'll be able to feel that without having all of the anxiety of having your needle going up and down. Okay, so I've done that a couple of times, and Now I'm ready to start sewing. So remember how I'm going to do that. I'm hanging onto my thread, and I'm going to go needle down, needle up, press your foot up. There's my bobbin thread. So I'm going to pull that bobbin thread to the top and hang on to both of those. I'm going to come back to that spot on my ruler where it says A, and here we go. I'm going to start stitching. Pause there. Okay. I can let go of those threads now. I'm going to come back around and pause at B. Okay. Easy peasy. You can do this. Now I'm going to turn my ruler. I'm going to skip this line. I'm going to turn my ruler to the next line. And magically, when I line up here, I'm back at the A spot on my ruler. Perfect. Okay. So here we go again. All right. I have my foot control all the way down, and I'm moving my hands to come up with my stitch length. Okay. If I don't move my hands, nothing's going to happen. I'm just going to go up and down, right? You are in charge of your stitch length. Okay. I'm going to turn my ruler again, and let's talk a little bit more about that stitch length. So I talked about your speed control. If I have my speed control set all the way down, and I put my foot control all the way down, that is as fast as my needle is going to move. So if I move my hands at a comfortable speed, I'm going to get great big stitches. So if your stitches are too long, you need to speed up your needle a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to turn again. Now I'm going to let it go as fast as it wants to go. And this will terrify you if you do it. So, whoa, okay. So when I do that, I get really tiny little stitches. Well, that's not what I want. So I'm going to go back to that 35 miles an hour about. Now I can keep up with my needle and get consistent stitch length. The other thing I want you to notice is as I'm moving around this figure, did you notice how I've never turned my fabric? My fabric has always stayed just like this, okay? So now I'm looking at the back, behind my needle back here to make sure I'm lined up. And I'm going to trust that that's lined up because I looked at it. Come up, pause, and come around, okay? If I turn my fabric, this is what it would look like. Well, first of all, I would, maybe want to turn it this way. That works fine on this little bitty piece of fabric that I'm working on. If I'm working on a queen-sized quilt, if I'm even working on a crib-sized quilt, once I've turned my fabric 90 degrees, I've just done a ton of work, okay? So I'm going to keep it back here. And here's the other thing that I see beginners do. So they're coming along, and you're used to stitching in one direction, right? So you come along and you turn this so that you're kind of going in that direction. You're coming around, and now I want to come back down this way. Oh, I guess I can go like that. Okay, so see how much work I'm doing to turn my fabric? And I'm coming around here, and I didn't need to do any of that because I can stitch in any direction. So I'm going to get this lined back up again. I'm going to come around here and watch how much easier this is. So I'm just moving around the inside of that figure without ever turning my fabric. Okay. So I refer to that as driving the truck. If you're turning your fabric like this, you're driving the truck, and you're doing it without power steering. It's a lot of work. Okay. Now, here's the last spot. This is where we started. Okay, it was right here. Okay, so I'm lined up again on my reference point, and I'm going to come around here, pause at that spot again, and here's magic right here. Because when I come back in, I'm right at that spot. Okay. Now I didn't do the wiggle stitch at the beginning, okay, because I am a knot tire. So that's my comfort zone. I will do a little wiggle right here so that we can just cut both of these off at the same time and not have to worry about tying in any tails. Here's another magical part of the Sew Steady rulers. There is a little puzzle piece over here. This puzzle piece allows me to pick this up and take off the ruler without having broken my threads. So I didn't have to do anything. I can take that puzzle piece out. A couple of other things about Sew Steady rulers that are really important, and I didn't talk about this. I have some tape on my ruler. It is stable tape. It will come with your rulers. Your acrylic rulers are very slippery. So see how that just glides around on my fabric? I am actually using my ruler to move the fabric. And I'm doing that with the addition of this stable tape. The stable tape is what allows me to move the fabric and my ruler as one piece. Okay? So it doesn't take much. This ruler, because it has the little pinhole here, I only have 2 pieces of stable tape on here because this is the part that is going to want to move. This is nailed down with the pin, and then this part is the part that allows me to stick my ruler to the fabric. So your stable tape will come with your rulers. You're going to cut off little pieces. It's sticky on one side. You'll peel that off, put it on the back side of your ruler, and that's what's going to marry your ruler and your fabric up together. The other thing you'll notice is when I have my hands on my ruler, I'm kind of spread out. So I've got my hands on my ruler, but I also have my hands on my fabric. It's doing 2 things. It's keeping my ruler stable and it's helping me to move my fabric. Okay, so those are important. The Sew Steady rulers, on the back side of these rulers, all of these lines are actually etched into the ruler. These will not wear off. Beware the knockoff. They are not going to be your friend. So these have all of these reference line actually etched into the ruler. So that's going to make it very durable. All right, so I did the little wiggle stitch and I tied that off. Now I can raise my needle, raise my presser foot, pull this toward me, grab that thread. I'm going to hold that loop, lower my presser foot, needle down, needle up, presser foot up, and pull toward me. And there's my bobbin thread right there. Okay, so it just popped up just like it's supposed to. So I have 2 loops of thread now. One loop is my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And remember, you want to leave yourself some tails so that you don't get tangled up. I'm going to pull this up. Now, because I did the wiggle stitch right there, I can just cut all of this off. And I don't have to tie in any tails. And that's what the first motif is going to look like. Okay. The other thing to notice is on the back side stitching looks as good as the front side. And that's what you want. You want your quilt to be reversible. You don't want to have to hide that back side. You may actually stop using really busy fabric on the back and use something plain that's going to show off your stitching. That gives you 2 different quilts. So a fun way to do that. So are there any questions at this point, Stacy?
Well, let's see here. Someone said, does the glider keep the tack from going into the feed dogs because it's got the circular hole? And so that is absolutely one of the reasons why we recommend a circular hole.
Yes, and also it's going to keep that tack from getting hung up on this join between your machine bed and your Sew Steady table. Yeah. So yes, absolutely.
Someone
Anything
was
else?
suggesting that they found that the Isacord and glide threads and a Superior 9014 top stitch seemed to work better with non-fusible batting, but maybe that was just their experience.
Mm-hmm. I have used, I did a whole quilt in glide. I didn't use a fusible batting. I rarely use a fusible batting. It really has to be a particular project. I've not had problems with either one. I like glide. I think it's a great thread to play with. I like Isacord. It's also a wonderful thread, and it really depends on the look that you're after. If you want, the colors that are available in some of the Floriani and Isacord threads, where you've just got an entire rainbow that's available to you. Or, Superior has some beautiful colors as well. Use the color and look that you want. I like the matte look of the cotton thread. There are times when I want to have that shiny polyester look to make something pop a little bit more. It's really up to you. So, all right. Any other questions? I'm going to jump into a little bit different.
Someone said they keep getting a knot on some spots. Do you know what causes that?
A knot.
A knot.
Probably not moving your fabric enough. So when I get a knot, it's when I have forgotten that I'm in charge of moving my fabric. So if you have your needle going up and down too many times in the same spot, you will get kind of a ball of thread on the back, which looks like a knot. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, this is the 12-inch arc. Okay. This is part of the basic beginner set. You can get a presser foot, you can get your 12-inch arc, and today that's also going to come. If you order this through Cathey's, if you go into Cathey's and get this, you are also going to get this gorgeous little bloom template. And I can demo this in a few minutes and show you how it plays. But this arc ruler is going to be your best friend. This ruler is an absolute workhorse. So again, I've put my stable tape on the back, and it's got all of these lines on it. I'm going to use a number of these. And I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to embellish this a little bit. I'm going to connect these points. Okay. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to bring my thread up right on the point of one of these stars, or petals, I guess.
So someone was asking a question. They said, do you mark your entire quilt before you start working in sections, or do you just work in sections?
I just work in sections. I tend to use a chalk, and I find that if I mark the whole quilt with chalk, by the time I get to the end of the quilt, I have to remark it anyway. So along the lines of, I know that it's going to come out of my fabric. It does come out of my fabric, and my chalk will go away pretty quickly. So I tend to work in sections. If I'm working on a large quilt, I start in the middle and I work out. Spray basting works well for smaller projects, even maybe up to a crib-sized quilt. If I'm working on a very large project, I may have my long armor machine baste it for me. Just because it's going to help keep all of those layers together with all of the manipulation I'm going to be doing. I like a machine based. You can pin based as well, but you will need to move your pins out of the way so that your ruler will lay flat. So you may just have to remove the pins in a small area, and that will keep things together. You can get things stabilized, and you're good to go. Okay. So I've brought my threads up, and I buried my needle back down in here so everything is stable. It's not going to move on me. I want to draw a line, stitch a line with my needle from this point to this point. If I line my ruler up on this point, I'm going to miss hitting this by 1/4 of an inch. Remember that we've got 1/4 of an inch from the needle to the edge of the foot. So I want to keep my ruler 1/4 of an inch away from that needle. Well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to use a tool. I'm going to use the spacing gauge. So this is my little go-to spacing gauge. There, it's a little easier to see on the black. It has a 1/4 inch ear, a 1/2 inch, an 1/8, and a 1 inch. The 1/4 inch is the one that you will use the most often. You may even wear it out. No, you won't wear it out because it's acrylic and it's very durable. It's also clear. So I have my spacing gauge on a Serraditi Notions necklace. Okay. It's orange. It's got a long leash on it. I can hang it on my machine. I can hang it on my neck. It has this little key that pops off so I can use it independently. It's also great for scissors. It's great for all kinds of things. But I keep this leash on my spacing gauge because the spacing gauge has a habit of getting lost. Spacing gauges are also available in this wonderful teal color. Much less likely to get lost, still just as likely to be a cat toy. So you want to keep an eye on these, and having that Notions necklace really, really helps. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got this nailed down here. I'm going to put my ruler right up against my presser foot right there. So it's touching. I know my spacing is good over there. Over here, I'm going to line up this point with one edge of my 1/4 inch spacing gauge. So I'm going to line that up right there, and I'm going to bring my ruler into it. Okay. Now I know that my ruler is exactly 1/4 of an inch away from where I need to be, which is going to put me right on target. So I'm going to stitch along here and stop when I get to that point. Okay. Now I'm going to move my ruler this way. I'll do the teal ruler, or the teal spacing gauge this time, and maybe you can see this a little better. So I have one side of my spacing gauge right on that stitch line, the point that I want to hit, and I'm going to come across and now stitch across here. Okay. And that puts me right in that spot. So you can see over on this one how I hit that spot just exactly because of my spacing gauge. Okay. Now I always want to be 1/4 of an inch away with my ruler from this spot. If it's easier for you, sometimes you can come on either side of your presser foot and still get that 1/4 inch. Okay. It really depends on what's convenient for you and how your pattern is set up. So I'm going to come across there and stop right there. Now see, I'm never turning my fabric because it's a lot of work to turn a big quilt under here. And see how my hands are placed? So I have pressure, a little bit of pressure on my ruler, but I'm also bridging across my ruler and the fabric. And that's going to help you keep control of things. Turn this back this way. Come across here. Stop right on that point. It's a little bit easier maybe for you to see now how I'm getting that lined up. Stop right there. You will be working in all different directions. Some will be more comfortable for you, and some will feel very awkward. Okay. I would encourage you to practice the ones that feel very awkward to you, because you're going to have to do them eventually. And if you can practice them a little bit and get comfortable with them on a small piece of fabric, then when you need to do that on something larger, it will be much easier for you. Okay. Again, I'm going to do my little wiggle right here, and that stitches over my original tails and also kind of locks things off as I'm finishing up. So press your foot up, needle up, pull toward you. Come back here, needle down, needle up, press your foot up again. There's my bobbin thread. I've cut everything off. I've left myself some long tails, so I can just cut these tails off. Okay. And we've just embellished this guy a little bit, and it's really changed the look up. It's really kind of made something different go on here. If I want
I
this
love it. I think that's great.
Like it?
I was thinking we should do our next giveaway to go along with that. What do you think?
Let's do that.
All right. So you use the amazing spacing gauge to connect those points and just make sure everything lines up. And we know that that's an important tool, and it's even much more important when it comes with one of those necklaces, so you can keep it handy and have it hanging around your neck or hanging in your sewing room. So we're going to do them together. We're going to do one of our clear spacing gauges with a Sew Steady Notions necklace. And that will be our second combo giveaway for today.
Yay! So this is a tool you will want. You will use this all the time. I always keep mine handy. Okay, so were there any questions about how that lines up, Stacy, and how to get that going in the right direction?
I am not seeing any questions on that. No.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that all of the rulers will tell you, there's some information on here. So it's going to tell you the name of the ruler. It's Circles on Quilts. It's the spinning wheel number 36. And then there's this little 5.5 over here at the side. That means that when this is stitched out the way it was designed, and it doesn't have to be used that way, but when it's stitched the way it was designed, this motif will be 5.5 inches across. Well, that fits very, very nicely in a 6-inch block. Okay, so if I measure from here to here, it's 5.5 inches from this point to this point. But I have this 8-inch block, and I'd like to have a little bit more going on in here so that it doesn't look like it's just sitting out there in the middle of nowhere. And echoing is always a great way to go. You can do all kinds of great embellishment with echoing. The 12-inch arc, and why is this called a 12-inch arc? It's only about 6.5 inches long. So it's called a 12-inch arc because this arc, if it's stitched out all the way around, it will make a 12-inch circle. So the curve here is the same as the curve here is the same as the curve here. It's a steady curve, and it will make a 12-inch circle. Okay, that's why it's called the 12-inch arc. Many of your rulers will also have some extra lines on them. This has lines that are spaced at a 1/4 inch apart on both sides. 1/4 inch here, 1/4 inch here. And so you can use those to your advantage. If I put my ruler right on my stitches like that, okay, so I'm going to back off, come back in. If I put my ruler right on my stitches like that, and I stitch now, I will be stitching a 1/4 inch echo because, remember, there's my 1/4 inch, and I'm going to stitch along. I want to make this design a little bit bigger. So I'm going to stitch a 1/2 inch away from my connecting line right here. So in order to make it a 1/2 inch, if this gives me a 1/4, this 1/4 inch gives me a 1/2. Does that make sense? I hope. So I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to line up on that line, that reference line that I had right there. Always pull my threads up, lock that down. So now, if this line is lined up on my stitches, this is a 1/4 inch, this is a 1/4 inch, that gives me my 1/2 inch echo. Okay, So I can, without ever using my spacing gauge now, I can come across, stop right on that line that I drew. Let's do a needle down here. There we go. And now I can turn the corner. I'm going to be lined up on my stitches again, and I can come right to the next line. Stop right there. Okay. So by not turning my fabric, it means that sometimes I have to move my head around a little bit to make sure things are lined up. And sometimes I stand up and look at the back of my machine to see that things are going where they're supposed to be going. Stop right there. So now when I do this, I always have my ruler on kind of the inside of my foot. So the inside being that part of my design, because that's what I need to do to line up. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but I have run out of room. My finger is actually touching the back of my presser foot back here, okay? That's inconvenient for me. It's awkward, and I run the risk of actually having my finger underneath the presser foot, and that's not a place I want to be. So what do? Well, I can let go. I can line up again on that line. Because I have that line there and I can line up on my stitch line, I can move it and just come right back in and stop right there. And now I'm lined up to go to my next one. But that's why you want to have your needle stop in the needle down position so that your fabric doesn't accidentally move on you while you are making those adjustments. Just there, coming back in for a landing right here. I'm going to turn this so that you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to line up right there. So I'm turning this for your benefit because you're not going to turn your fabric. If I want to make sure that I'm going to hit that spot exactly, I can come back and use my spacing gauge. Now it should, because I'm lined up there. I can use my spacing gauge and see, oh yeah, I'm going to line up perfectly on that. Come back in. Okay, I'm not going to do the wiggle tie off on this one. I'm going to do the quilter's knot, which is pretty much the same thing. So needle up, presser foot up, pull, presser foot down, needle up, presser foot up. You'll get this little mantra. You'll sing it in your sleep. That's what I should do. I should make a song for it. Okay, so there are my two loops. I'm going to leave my long tails on this one because I want to tie them off. Okay, so one of these on my bobbin is attached to my fabric. The other is still attached to my bobbin. I'm going to cut the bobbin side. Okay, that leaves me my long tails that I can tie off now. So I'll show you the quilter's knot one more time, and then I will not harp on it again. So here's my quilter's knot. I'm going to pop 2 threads into that top loading needle, do a little overhand knot, work it so it's about 1/4 of an inch away. I'm going to come back in to my last stitch hole right there, pull that through. There's a little loop right there with my knot, pop that in, and it's done. Okay. Both methods work. It's really a matter of personal preference. I tend to leave a lot of strings and then come back and tie my knots off in the evening when I'm watching television. I'm too tired to be accurate in my sewing anymore, so it's time to tie knots, and it's just a relaxing thing for me to do. So tie both of those in and pop that in. And now you have no idea where I started and where I finished. When I turn my fabric over, that's what the back side looks like. So the back side is going to look as good as the front side. Okay? Any questions yet on this, Stacy? Nope. Okay. So I could continue this out. I could do another echo out here that would fill up this block completely. I can play with that in a number of ways. I can also show you some other things that you can do with just your 12-inch arc. Okay. Like I said, this is a workhorse of a little tool, and it is great for all kinds of things. When people start doing their own quilting, oftentimes the answer is, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stitch in the ditch. That's fine. You just stitch in the ditch. I'm here to show you that stitch in the ditch with a ruler can be even easier. So one of the things that happens with stitch in the ditch, if you're trying to do, say, a block at a time, it can be hard to get everything lined up, and you may need to turn your quilt. If you're using a walking foot, certainly when you get down to this corner down here, you've got to turn your whole quilt, stitch across here, turn your whole quilt. So you've turned your quilt 360 degrees by the time you get back to the beginning of your block. If you do this with rulers, your life just got way easier. So we're going to pretend that this is my stitch line. And yes, that's a very fat line. So I'm going to line up to the inside of it. It doesn't matter. You're just going to pick a spot. So as I check along here, I've got my 1/4 inch. We're going to say that this is my stitch line. And now I can just stitch right down that stitch line. Okay, I'm running out of fingers and ruler. Okay, not a problem. I can stop and line up again. Okay. If I didn't have anything to line up to here, I could line up behind my presser foot because it's a parallel line. So I can come in either way and get that to line up. Stop right there. Okay. This is where if you were doing this with a walking foot, you would have to turn your whole quilt. Well, you don't have to do that anymore because you can stitch it with a ruler. And I'm going to come across here to this side. So I never had to turn my fabric. Okay, I'm running out of ruler again. So, what if I had a 12-inch block? Sure enough, I can just use this same ruler and just line up as I go. I'm just going to move my ruler a little bit, make sure I'm lined up again, and keep right on going. Okay, I'll stop in that corner. I'm going to work my way back now. So I'm going to kind of look over the back of my machine, make sure I'm lined up there. I'm going to pause because I want to line things up again. It's easier to line up on this side, so that's what I'm going to do. So I've just made stitch in the ditch easier for you, even, if that's all you want to do. All I want to do is stitch in the ditch. That's fine. It's easier to do with a ruler than it is to do it with a walking foot or a regular sewing foot because you never have to turn your fabric. Okay, come across. I think I can make it. So I'm just going to come right into that spot. Okay, so now I've just stabilized this block. I've stitched in the ditch. I've gotten a nice even straight line because I had something to follow. So sometimes, we do this kind of wobbly thing when we're just sewing. And I've just solved a lot of problems, and it's still stitch in the ditch. Okay, I'm going to show you a kind of a fun little motif that is great to fill up some space sometimes. I wouldn't use this over a heavily pieced block because I want my piecing to show. This is a place where I can have my quilting show. So I'm going to take this same ruler and I'm going to choose this first line. Okay, I'm going to use this very first line as a reference point. I'm going to work on the outside. So I have here's my block and here's my ruler. It's outside of my block. I'm going to line up against my presser foot here, and I'm going to take that first line and line it up. Let's turn this a little bit. So this corner is going to line up with this line. So it's still a straight line, but it's offset just a little bit. Okay, I don't have to measure anything. I'm just using that one. Stitch down here and stop when I hit the stitches. Okay, I'm going to keep my ruler on the outside. I'm going to come across. I'm going to line up exactly the same way right over here and stitch across. And stop when I get to the stitch line. Okay, same thing. This becomes a lot of same, and that's all right. Okay, stop right on the stitch line. So see, I'm going from this spot up to here, and it's always offset just a little bit. Now I'm going to come across to the beginning. So I'm just going corner to corner to corner. And stop right there. All right. So I've made my stitch in the ditch. I've outlined my block. And now I've done another square that's just a little bit offset inside the first one. Okay. My next lineup is going to be on the line that I just stitched. So there's the first one. Here's the line that I just stitched. So I'm going to line up that same line on my ruler with that last stitched line. And I'm never going to cross any stitches when I'm sewing. So I'm going to come down here, and when I just touch the stitches, I'm going to stop. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to line up over here. Okay. Now, when you start doing this, this is not a speed contest. This is not how fast can I get done. You want to be in control all the time. And so if that means that you stitch a little bit more slowly just so that you can get lined up and feel confident, there's two words in there, that's fine. It's not a contest. It's not who got done fastest. It's who had the most fun doing it. I'm going to cross here. Okay, I need to move my hands a little bit. Pause right there on my stitch line. And can you see what's happening? Each one of these squares is a little bit offset from the one before. So Stacy, while I'm stitching this out, did you want to talk about some of the specials that Cathey's is offering for this class?
Yeah, so Cathey's is participating in some of our amazing reseller exclusive tools, and that means you get some bonus items when you purchase some of these. So these are items that are not on our website, so you do have to call Cathey's to take advantage of them. One of which is our reseller exclusive ruler foot package. So I'm not sure if you're going to have a chance to show off that new bloom template. but that is a bloom template that you can only get at participating dealers. And we do have a kit where you can get that with a 12-inch arc with a ruler foot to get started for just $55. So it's an awesome way to get started with ruler work if you haven't already gotten the essential starting tools. If you wanted to just buy the bloom template, you can also get that just that from Cathey. And that's, again, something that is available just only through the stores directly. And then we have our amazing ruler work kit. So again, if you have not already gotten started with ruler work and you don't have the essentials, then this is going to be kind of what we say is like a must-have essential, because the ruler work kit not only comes with those 3 tools that we just showed you, the 12-inch arc, the bloom template, the ruler foot, and staple tape, but it also comes with sampler set, the crosshair ruler, which you've seen us use a ton today, the spacing gauge, the staple tape, and 2 amazing classes on our So Steady University. One of those classes is called the Quilt As You Go class series, and that class is 10 hours of video-based education by Leonie West, the designer of the product line. So she takes you through creating over 20 different blocks using the sampler set, which again is part of this kit. And you finalize the Quilt As You Go quilt. So that is an amazing class. In addition to that, you also get access to the Crosshair Square book, which basically gives you amazing ideas on what else you can do with your rulers outside of just the basic designs that you get in your packaging. So I would say that both of those, the total combined value for that kit alone is over $400, and Cathey's has it available for $175. That's the reseller exclusive ruler work kit. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of it. Oh, and did I mention it comes in this super cute little black bag that is a quilted bag with a clear front, so you can keep everything in there and you can see in it and see what you have in there as far as rulers.
Yes.
I think that's really helpful, is to know
important consideration.
Yeah, how to find the rulers that you want. So the clear front was something that we were excited about for that purpose. So the ruler work kit is definitely one of the recommended items. And again, if you haven't already gotten started with rulers. So I will go ahead and share a link to that. Again, that's something that you'd want to purchase directly through Cathey's. And I just love the parabolic curve. This is one of those designs that I always think it looks so cool. And you know what? The smaller the lines. So the less tolerance you have, or meaning, maybe a 1/4 inch as opposed to a 1 inch. I just think it looks cooler and cooler as you get a little bit more lines in there.
Yes. Yeah. The more lines you put in, the cooler this is. In the interest of actually having it stitch out in the time that we have allotted, I've chosen to do 1/2 inch. But yeah. If you do 1/4 inch, it is amazing. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do a square. There is a whole class of designs that are available using this concept for parabolic curves. And way fun stuff. So I think I'll do a couple more, because I really want you to see what the effect of this is. It's very dynamic. It's got a lot of movement to it, and if you've been watching in the background here while Stacy was talking, I'm just sewing straight lines. I'm not doing anything exotic. They're just straight lines, and people will be amazed when you say, "Oh yeah, I did that. It's just straight lines." I am the coolest because I know how this works. If any of you took calculus in high school or college, I know for me that was a very long time ago, you will recognize that this uses the concepts of calculus. Who knew that we would use calculus in quilting? Okay, I'll make this my last one. So I am going to do a wiggle here so that I don't have to tie off. That is my tie off. Bring that down and up, pull that out, and cut those bad boys off. So let's turn this over so you can see the whole thing. A little burp right there. Okay, that is what the parabolic curve looks like. I just think that's so cool because you get these curved lines that you created without ever having to stitch a curve. And I just love how that comes out. I think it's really dynamic. If you do this with even just doing a triangle across here, you get a whole new design. Fun way to fill in some spaces and have some really great things pop out of your quilt. Are there any more questions about this one?
No, someone was just saying that they'd love to do some embroidery with that. Maybe put a cute little design in the middle of that.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, yeah. Lots of fun things that you can do with that. And that is great. You are thinking out of the box and you're thinking creatively. And that is what this is all about. So, yes, by all means. So, Stacy was talking about that little bloom template. Let's see what that guy looks like. I can stitch that out for you because I think it is absolutely adorable. And there are a couple of patterns available. I think there's a course on the university for how to use the little bloom template, using also the what we call the template technique, which is another fun thing that you can do with rulers. Kind of comes out looking like reverse applique, I think is probably the best way to describe it. So I'm using my crosshair square again, and I'm coming across here, and I want to find out where that center spot is. But I'm going to do something a little bit different with the bloom template. This one doesn't have a pin in it. It just spins around the template itself. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my threads up right here in the middle and pop that out. Get that anchored down. Okay. Whoa, I forgot to put my ruler in. How am I going to do that? Well, remember our little key right here? Let me just pop that key out. Come in, put the key back in, and now I have my complete template. And I just use Scotch tape to hold that down. Painter's tape works really well. So I have a couple of choices here. I can either anchor my ruler here, or I can anchor it down this way. I get two different things if I do that. But let's do this one first. So I'm going to line up my reference line right here on those reference lines that I drew before. Hang on to those tails when I start and stitch this out. So I'm going to come around that corner. You want to kind of slow down going around that corner because you can wander off to Kansas pretty easily. No offense to those of you in Kansas today. Come around. Okay, I'm going to pause right there. Come back down into here. And it gets me right back to the beginning. Now, this one is easy. It's even easier than the first one we did because there's an absolute stop point right there. I'm going to turn my ruler to my next reference line. Come around and stitch this out. Stacy, isn't this the same ruler that I used in the Summer Fun pattern? I think it is.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So there is another pattern available that uses this ruler. I know several of the instructors have done some fun things with this ruler. So I'm always coming back to that center point, and I'm always lining up right there on my reference line. Okay. And so some people have done free motion quilting with gloves. When I first started, before I started using templates, I did my free motion quilting with gloves. I find that with templates, I don't need them. If they work for you and it's something you want to try out, by all means, give that a try. Some people find it makes it a little easier for them. I find they just kind of get in my way a little bit. I tend to be on and off and on and off and on and off. So I'm just coming out here. Stop right there in the center. Got a couple more to go. Center again. I'm coming up on it. I only have 2 more here. So I'm looking over the back of my machine to see where that is. But see, you can, if I turn it, you can see I'm lined up right there. Okay. But I don't want you to get in that habit of turning your fabric, because it will bite you when you want to do a bigger project. Okay, and here's the very last one. So when I come to a portion of the template that has a little bit more going on, like that little shoulder near the, well, right there, I may slow down just a little bit so that I can make sure that I stay right on the template where I wanted to be. Okay, I'm just going to cut this one off. So do the thing right back down in the center there. Pop that up. There are my tails. And I'm just going to cut all of this off so that we can see what's going on. And there is the bloom template, and I just love it. I just think it's adorable, and it gives you a great base for starting some very creative things. I want to talk about that for just a second. So all of the rulers are designed in a particular way to do a particular thing. So the bloom template was designed to do this design and one other. But there's nothing saying that you can't use this template in a completely different way than it was designed. I encourage you to try it and see what you come up with, because there is just a world of creativity out there. If there is something that you think of in your mind, oh, I'd really like to be able to do this with templates, I'll bet you can. A, because there's a huge selection available, and B, because you can use any of those templates in another way. Just think outside the box a little bit. But I just think this is an adorable little one. And like Stacy said, it's only available through your retailer. It's a retailer exclusive. So you can't get it online. You can't, unless you order it from Cathey's. So that's kind of a special thing. Okay. So there are 3 different designs that we played with. This one is out of the 6-piece sampler template set, embellished with some straight lines, some things that you can do with just straight lines, and then that little bloom template. And I wanted to show you a couple of other things. This block is using some things that you'll recognize, straight lines, okay? And this spiral in the middle, well, not in the middle, on the edges, this spiral uses this 6-inch spiral, okay? And that's all that is. this is the same spiral, just used in a different configuration. Okay, so this one spirals around here, and this one spirals around this point over here. I have a couple of other blocks that I can show you. All of these come from the sampler template set. So all of these are basic designs that you can do with the 6-piece sampler template set. So here's one. You recognize that one. We just did that one. You recognize this one now because I just showed you. That's that 6-inch spiral. Okay. These are embellished just using some straight lines and using the lines on that 12-inch arc so that I can get that spacing in there. Here is one that uses the 2-inch circle from the 6-piece set. So 2-inch circle. Then it uses the arc right here. And then it uses the clamshells, okay, to build on this design. So took a very simple 2-inch circle, added to it, framed it, added some piano keys, just ways to play with these things that you can add, you can subtract, lots and lots of room for creativity. So I wanted to show you these just so that you have some ideas. Here's another one from the sampler template set. And these are also clamshells, but they're oriented differently. So all kinds of ways to play with that. And there is a lot of creative inspiration out there for doing all of these blocks. So toss these up here. Stacy, do you think they would like to see some of the feathers?
Oh, yes, please. That would be amazing.
So I think a lot of quilters kind of.
Oh, we had a good question come through.
Oh,
Someone was
yeah.
asking if they can use low shank, if our templates would work on their Epic machine, which is a low shank.
Absolutely. So you will have a low shank foot, okay? And your rulers will be low shank rulers. So I use high shank rulers on my machine. They are a little bit thicker. The difference between what the thicknesses do is they allow your ruler to come behind your presser foot, okay? So when you figure out which machine you have and what size shank your ruler is, or your foot is, then you will always order the rulers that go with that foot. So if you have a low shank machine, you will always order low shank rulers. High shank rulers. So that's something to keep in mind. And when you order, the easiest way to keep track of all of that is to make sure that you always specify which machine and model you have. And that will make sure that you get exactly what you need for your machine. Okay, so feathers. When I first started quilting, I had this thing in my head that was, ooh, I want to be able to do feathers. That looks really cool. And they do. They look really cool. And then I discovered that if I were going to freehand feathers, we could do this until the next coming, and I was not going to be able to freehand a feather. It's just not in my wheelhouse. My first feather looks like a feather. My second feather looks less like a feather. And by the time I get to the third one, I just have these blobs. And they are not happy, pretty blobs. They're just blobs, okay? So imagine my delight when I discovered that So Steady has a feather template, okay? So feather templates come in a set. You can either get them individually or you can get the set. I love the set. It comes with a 2-inch feather. So when it's stitched out, that means it's 2 inches from side to side, a 3-inch, a 4-inch, and a great big old 5-inch feather. So lots and lots of different ways to play with this. And I think doing feathers with templates is just the best. I think it's so much fun. So I'm going to draw in a spine. I'm just going to do a straight feather just to show you how easy feathers are to use. I'm just going to draw in a straight spine right here. And that will give me something to work to. I have my stable tape on my ruler. I've put it on the back side of my ruler. And all of these lines are going to help me to line up as I do my feathers. When you're first starting feathers, there are kind of two ways to do it, just so that it's easier for you. One is to work with your ruler in this orientation, which I call bunny ears. Okay. The other is to turn your ruler 180 degrees and work with bunny feet. I like bunny feet for beginners because I think it's easier to see what's going on and see where you are and where you're going next. Okay. So I'm just going to pick a spot on my spine here and bring my threads up. Okay, so I'm anchored right there. Now, on my ruler, there are two center lines. So center refers to your spine, okay? So if I start over here, I'm going to line up my center line for the feathers on this side, okay? So I can, as I move my ruler across here, it brings that center line in and out. And so I'm going to get to the spot where it's just lined up, okay? And for my first feather, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stitch around here. See those arrows? We're going to come back to those arrows in just a minute. Come back and stop right where I started. Okay, now to do the feather on the other side, I'm simply going to slide my ruler over, line up the same way on my center line right here. Come down a little bit and come across. Okay, now I want to be able to travel. I can do this a couple of ways. The easiest way that I have found to do this is simply to backstitch over the stitches I just did. So I'm just going to, without moving my ruler, I'm just going to come right back up here and stitch over these lines. This is where the extra lines on my ruler are going to come into play. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in, and I've marked it with that arrow. I have a whole pack of these arrows that come in some great fun tropical colors, a bright pink, a bright green, and a bright blue. Okay, makes it easy to see. These are ruler stickers. They're, as you saw before, they're removable. I can move them in and out. They help me keep track of where I'm going. If you have to cut a whole bunch of 1 3/8 inch strips, these stickers are great for being able to mark that and come back to that. There are 192 of these arrows. I don't think I will ever run out, which is also lovely because they peel and stick and peel and stick and peel and stick, and they're great. So I love these. So what I'm going to do is 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in, I've put an arrow. And on this side, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in, and there's my arrow. And it helps me just keep lined up on what I'm going to do. So I'm going to stitch back over this, and I think I did move my ruler a little bit. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to kind of fake this a little bit. And I'm going to come up so that my ruler, now my needle is lined up. No, it's not. My needle is going to be lined up with that 4th line. I really moved my ruler. So it happens. Okay, so I've got my needle lined up on that line. Now I'm just going to slide my ruler up. My center line is still lined up. I'm going to come back around, and I'm going to stop right on that center line again. That's going to be my spine when I get done with this. Come over to the other side, line up that center line, okay? And I'm going to stitch all the way back to my last feather. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to stop on my stitch line right there, one more, okay? And I'm going to come back to that fourth line. So it's right there, okay? Now I'm going to slide up. So I'm just going to go side to side to side to side. And this is one way to do it. There are a number of ways to do this. And there are lots of classes built around feathers. So lots of educational opportunities for this. Come back up here, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Come all the way around, touch my stitches, come back to that line, and stop right there, okay? I'll do one more, and then we'll do a little bit different play, just so you can see what the possibilities are. Stop on that center line, come over here. Okay, now, if I just ended this right here, my feathers would have this kind of abrupt, odd end. Sometimes that's okay because you can fill that in with something else. But what I'm going to do is instead of my fourth line, instead of stopping there, I'm going to come in to the sixth line, okay? So I've come further than I did on the others. And I'm also, instead of sliding up this way, I'm going to come over now, and instead of using my center line, I'm going to come in 2 lines on this side, okay? So 6th line and the 2nd line. Now I'm going to come around. I'm still going to stop on that center spine, okay? So 2 lines in makes it the same as what it was on the other one. Come in and stop. Now I'm going to come all the way back to the center. Stop right there on the center. I'm going to just turn this ruler sideways because it's a straight line. I could use my 12-inch arc, but this is handy. And I'm going to line up to the points of those feathers. Come back down. Stop on that one. And I measure each one only because sometimes they shift a little bit, and it's fabric. You can fudge this stuff. It's all right. There's nothing saying that you can't fudge it a little bit. And truly, if there's a little bobble, you are the only one who's going to see it. Unless, of course, when you show your quilt to your friend and your friend says, "Wow, that's amazing." I guarantee one of you will say, "Yeah, but see where I messed up right here?" No, your friend did not see that until you pointed it out. Be kind to yourselves. Don't point out your mistakes. Only you know where they are. It doesn't matter. They're not mistakes, they're design changes. So, there are some feathers. When we turn it over and we don't have a chalk line in there, that's what they look like. And they're that easy to do. And I could do feathers all day long. I just think feathers are the most fun. They're a blast. And there are so many design possibilities available with these. The sky is the limit. Okay. Any questions on feathers, Stacy?
No. We just had someone say they love them. Oh, they asked if the same technique you just used would be similar on a curved spine.
Yes, it is. And there are whole classes designed. So I have a ruler work bag that is available on the Westalee University that is all built around feathers. And it's great fun because it gives you a lot of techniques for feathers, as well as giving you a storage facility for your rulers. Can I show that?
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, let me
Well,
show one of these off.
I just posted a link to our So Steady University. We've mentioned it a couple of times today. One of the classes was the parabolic curves. That's an awesome class. And guess what, guys? It's free. It's
Yay.
another free class that you can take advantage of. So I'm going to post a link to that, and then I'll post a link to the feather class as well.
Great. So this is just kind of a preview of what the feather class looks like. There's some variations on this. So here's a feather with a double spine. Here's a feather that works around a curve but fills a particular space. And here's a feather that just works on a curved spine. Okay. And when you look at the other side of this project, it is designed to hold your rulers. So when you outgrow the number of rulers that are in the sampler template set, this gives you a great way to store them and to take them to class and keep them safe. So I think, unless there are other questions, I think
I will say there was a request to show some designs that are in the sampler set, and I don't know if there's much time left, but I wanted to do our final giveaway.
Yes.
And the final giveaway, there is this amazing educator by the name of Angela Atwood, and she is a graphic designer extraordinaire with amazing quilting talents. She's based out of the UK. Lorena shared with you one of the samples she made out of her book. I believe that sample was out of the ruler roll book. Is that right?
No, I think all of those were out of hang on just a second.
Was that the jewel?
Yeah, I think
the jewel book.
Jewel quilt. Yes.
Okay. So the jewel book is this gorgeous book that takes you through creating another quilt as you go style quilt using the sampler set, but the designs in this quilt are just phenomenal. So that is going to be our final giveaway today, is going to be the jewel book by Angela Atwood, and she's using the sampler set of templates to create all of those amazing designs. I don't know if you can get a little bit closer up on some of those, but these designs are designs that you thought, oh my goodness, there's no way I could create that, but you can. Right. And she shows you how easily you can do it.
So this is that block that I showed you a few minutes ago. Come on, camera, help me out here. There we go. So here is the block, and that looks incredibly complicated to me. Here's how easy it is to get started, because Angela takes you through the whole thing. Here's your marking. Here's your first set of stitch lines. As she goes through this, she builds the whole block for you with some very beautiful instructions. She just does a fabulous job. And you can do that. And all of these designs are built around that 6-piece sampler template set. And you get this fabulous quilt. Take advantage of that. It's wonderful. I love it. And was that going to be our last giveaway today, or was it going to be Janet's book?
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, are you going to show off their Janet Collins book real quick too?
Yeah, here's Janet's book as well.
Yeah, that's another amazing book, guys. If you don't have that book, that's a must-have. That you get about 50 different designs on just things you can do with the sampler set. So
right.
But that one we're not going to give away today. We're going to give away the jewel book today. So
this is the one you're going to win. And this is the other one that you want, that you're going to order. What I love about this one is you can do Janet's whole cloth quilt, or you can use this as a jumping off point. Oh, there's something that'll fit really well with the quilt that I just pieced, and I can add to that. So lots and lots of ways to use these. So with that, I think that's all I had for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much to Cathey's for inviting us in today. It's an honor to be able to do that.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. And again, thank you, Cathey Stoenbach, for bringing this event to all of you. You've got 4 more weeks to keep watching it, and take advantage of that 10% exclusive discount that we're giving you through Cathey's. And definitely check out some of those reseller exclusive tools that they have there in the store. Sounds like it's air conditioned, guys. And at 107 degrees, you absolutely need to head down to the store, okay?
Absolutely.
Sure, everybody else has air conditioned cars and homes there, but you know what? Go to Cathey's.
Right.
All right. Well, thanks again. Have a wonderful night and a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.